Killer pediatrician caught on camera right before daughter died. That is just disgusting. That is absolutely disgusting. Who can do that to a child? Who can do that to their own child? Because what I believe about it, it was I think a female pediatrician took out their own daughter, from what I understand. Maybe I'm completely wrong, but in the end, I mean, a child are like the epitome of innocence. I don't understand. I'm like, my mind just goes blank on that kind of thing.
These are the last moments that 4-year-old Aria Talathi was heard alive before.
4. Well, then again, I mean, the age doesn't really mean anything, right? I mean, what, does it hurt any less if she was like 13? No. But yeah, it's just the sheer innocence is just disgusting.
Police say her mother, pediatrician Dr. Neha Gupta, killed her, allegedly smothering this little girl and staging her death to look like an accidental drowning. We are going to break down what we are seeing in this newly released surveillance footage with a retired NYPD detective to understand what this will mean for the investigation. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. You may remember the case of 4-year-old Aria Talathi, who was tragically found dead in the backyard pool of a Florida rental home in late June of 2025. Her mother, Dr. Neha Gupta, an Oklahoma pediatrician, she's accused of smothering her daughter and staging the scene. The reason we are talking about this story once again, the reason we are revisiting the story, is because there is newly released surveillance footage that shows this little girl, shows Aria in the final days of her life, moments that until now we hadn't been able to see or hear. Newly released surveillance footage obtained by Law and Crime captures what looks like an ordinary mother-daughter beach trip. Again, moments now cast in a chilling new light. And just days after this footage was recorded, this little girl was found dead at the same home. If you've been following Sidebar, you will remember this case. Dr. Neha Gupta, this pediatrician at the center of what is arguably one of the most shocking child deaths in recent memory that we've covered here on the show. And you might also remember this, the dramatic moment that U.S. Marshals showed up to arrest her in her Oklahoma home on July 1st, 2025.
Police with a warrant, open the door, do it now! Come to the door! Hey, come out! Contact on the ground, come here.
Now here's the thing, okay, this is what's interesting. Gupta was initially charged with first-degree murder, but since then a lot has changed. It was first downgraded to aggravated manslaughter, and then it was elevated back to a murder charge. Okay, we're gonna get into all of that, and we're gonna break down what we're seeing for the very first time in this newly released surveillance footage in just a moment. But first, how did we get here, right? What is going on? What's the context? So according to an arrest warrant, police were called around 3:41 a.m. on June 27, 2025 to a short-term rental property in El Portal, Florida. This is outside the Miami area. And this is after a call came in from Gupta reporting that her 4-year-old daughter had drowned. The warrant reads, officers observed AT, hereinafter referred to as the deceased victim, unresponsive and submerged in the deep end of the swimming pool. MDFR personnel extracted the deceased victim from the pool and began cardiopulmonary resuscitation. The victim was pronounced deceased at 4:28 a.m. Now, Gupta told investigators that she had been sleeping beside her daughter, woke up, found her missing. She claimed that the sliding glass door to the pool had somehow been opened.
Okay, this is gonna sound bad. This is gonna sound really bad, because you're sleeping next to your child. There have been multiple instances, and well, the child is 4 years old now, but there have been multiple instances where infants have died because they would sleep in the same bed as the parents, and the parents roll on top of them. Normally they're between like one or just newborn to like 2 years old. But even you could still kind of get away with it with someone who's 3 years old if you're completely out of it. Like I don't want to give anyone ideas, but it's like she could have claimed that she took a sleeping draft and she might have rolled on top, and then it would be a light sentencing because it was an accident. But the fact I hate that I'm like giving ideas out there. I hate that I'm giving ideas out there, because that kind of stuff happens, and it's a tragedy. It's a tragedy for real parents who think that, oh, I'm just gonna sleep with the one I care about. Like, especially for mothers, they want to be with their child like all the time, to nurture, to take care of, and then they get completely devastated once they accidentally roll in their sleep. And the infant doesn't have the ability to, That kind of stuff is tragic. But no, the child ran out and apparently jumped in a pool, which also is tragic. I mean, there are people who will start a police shift and then the first thing they see the day on the job, like probably their first day on job, is going to a pool because there was a report, and then they see a child floating head down in the backyard pool. That actually happens, sadly, quite a bit. Quite a bit. Of course, there's always an investigation, especially if it's an adult. Normally, it's just like, okay, well, he obviously was intoxicated. Like, they'll do blood alcohol, that kind of stuff. But when it's a child, it's like no matter what, they go above and beyond to find out exactly what led to that point, because children always need protection. They always need protection, even if that protection is from their own parents. What is the saying? Not all parents deserve kids, but all kids deserve a parent. Isn't that what it's supposed to be? That's why there should be, like, it should be instinctive for people to want to protect children. And it speaks volumes if someone's just doesn't have that mindset. Doesn't have that kind of mindset. The sheer narcissism that she obviously had.
And that she tried to save her daughter but couldn't because she couldn't swim. Remember that she couldn't swim. The warrant quotes are saying she attempted to remove the victim from the pool. However,
you couldn't swim. Why are you at a house that has a pool? It's that simple. Like, okay, there's a few people I know that can't swim. The thing is, if I have a house with the pool, I can at least swim and teach the others how to swim. You don't get a place with the pool if you don't have any ability to actually utilize it. It just makes no sense. It makes no sense to me. Why? Because if she's renting the location, it's an Airbnb probably, or if it's her home, why have a home with a pool? Like my grandfather, when he bought his house, the house had a pool in it. The house had a pool. Like, it was designed in like it was like a 1960s house, and it had a pool in the backyard. My grandfather knew he had grandchildren, put dirt in the entire pool, had that entire pool buried. The entire pool is still there in that backyard. I don't think the landowners that own that place now know that that's a pool back there. There's just a lawn. There's just a lawn that follows that kind of, the weird oval thing, the designs that they do. Yeah, it's just filled with soil, filled with grass. And the owners there don't know that that's a pool, that it can easily be dug out. But yeah, you always, especially when it's kids, you always have to keep that in account. Like, I know a family that has a fence built around their pool, an entire fence. They have a fence around their yard and then another fence around their pool, because this kind of stuff happens, and you always have to be cautious of this stuff. It's tragic. It's tragic.
She was unsuccessful due to the fact that she's unable to swim. We will come back to that detail later. But that is the version of the story that Gupta apparently told authorities. The autopsy in this case tells a very different story. Why? The doctor, the Miami-Dade medical examiner, found that there was no water in Aria's lungs or stomach. The report also documented cuts inside of her mouth and bruising on her cheek, so injuries not consistent with CPR, according to this medical professional, but consistent with asphyxiation by smothering. In the medical examiner's words, quote, the deceased victim was deceased prior to being placed into the swimming pool. And that finding transformed a tragic accident report into a homicide investigation. Now, if you're a fan of Sidebar, you know we cover a lot of cases, we put out a lot of clips a day, and I will tell you, if you are thinking about how to build up your social media following, if you're thinking about how to put content out there, we got to tell you how our little secret, our little trick. So we use a platform called OpenClip. This is an all-in-one AI editor that makes it easier and faster to cut, create, and upload videos across all social media platforms.
The thing is, like I said, the only accident that might have happened, that possibly could have happened, and if like the drowning thing, everything comes out in evidence, she could have been like, I rolled on top of the child, I had no clue what was going on, that kind of thing. But the fact that it's staged, the child gets suffocated, and then there's no evidence of drowning because, you know, you swallow water as you try to breathe, and it's the struggle that, well, really gets you to drown. It's that struggle. But yeah, the fact there was no water found, it's just like she was clearly trying to find
July
an
1st,
excuse.
at her Oklahoma City home. This is days after the medical examiner's findings. Body cam video that was obtained by Law and Crime shows the U.S. Marshals forcing their way into her house, where they eventually found Gupta hiding in a laundry room.
Police with a warrant, open the door, do it now! Come to the door! Turn around. Let's come up the breach. Shoot from back. Breach. Oh. Neha Gupta, come to the front door, do it now! The U.S. Marshals, we have a warrant for your arrest, come to the front door! Do it now!
We saw her. Where'd she go? What's the east side?
They're prepared. Like you can imagine what these officers are thinking in their head. A mother who's willing to murder their own child. Like, this is what's going on in their head. They need to detain her. They need to get evidence. So that's why but in their heads, they're just like, all right, we need to protect ourselves. If this person is willing to do that to their own child, there is no knowing what they are willing to do to random strangers. They are willing to just barge in and pull the trigger if need be. You have to put, like, that's why you always have to put yourself in like the officer's place. What are they thinking at this point in time? What's going on in this moment? What did they just come from? What was the hearing that they just had with their lieutenant breaking down the suspect? All that stuff gets correlated into the incident they're in. And you can tell, like, he's literally got his finger right above the trigger. You never have it on the trigger until you're actually planning to shoot, but he has it right above the trigger. He's prepared, completely prepared. It's not like going on the door, knocking. It's just like, we need to interview you. No, he's completely ready. There's a whole different kind of tact when you're just going to pick someone, a person of interest, and interview them, rather than you actually believe this suspect is capable of such harm. They're searching, keeping every corner secure.
We got y'all's light over here.
You got surround us? Yeah.
Want us to move up? You got that? Let's push and see what's on the choice like this closet. My closet.
Great. Okay. Yes, it does. Can I come back around to this what you got there?
Partially from the wall, we have to move over.
Does that go out to the garage right there?
Yep.
Hey, we're gonna clear this garage, so back up a little bit, buddy. On my break. Okay. It's unlocked.
Go ahead and open that and we'll maybe record this.
Do I think gun is necessary for every officer? Absolutely. Absolutely. Definitely. Definitely.
Henry.
Okay, so you gotta remember what's on it. If it's a lock or something.
Still have to open. Start it. Take off the start it, but have kind of quick.
Yeah, the shields are bulletproof.
Hey,
the riot shield. Well, that's not a riot shields are one thing. They're more like the strong heavy duty plastic.
Hey, come out. Contact on the ground. Come here.
The fact that she was just hiding in there holding her phone.
Keep clear the rest of this and get her out. She hasn't been checked. You good?
And that's something that makes no sense to me. She's a pediatrician. She gets a ton of money at her job. She makes enough to hire a nanny or a daycare worker, or someone to take care of the child. You make enough, sure, with that much money being spent a month on a child care, you probably wouldn't be able to live in the life of luxury you would expect with the income you are getting. But at the same time, you don't have to eradicate your child. You don't have to delete your child. You can put your child up for adoption. There are so many different avenues available to her. But for some reason, a lot of people think the only escape is divorce or eradicating their children. Like there was that one guy who started an affair with his wife with some random woman, and then in order to get out of the relationship, he had to remove both his wife and his 2 daughters and left them in like an oil drum out in the middle of nowhere, thinking he would get away with it. It's just like, I don't understand that mindset. People want to change up their lives. They regret making the decision of being wed to somebody or having a child. They regret that choice. It's just like, you made the choice to do so. You have to grow up and take responsibility. But some people want to forego that responsibility and backtrack to when time was simpler instead of just being an adult.
She was taken into custody, extradited to Florida. She first appeared in court on July 18th, where prosecutors argued the evidence pointed to an intentional and premeditated act. While Gupta's attorney called the charge premature, claimed that Aria's death was accidental, a tragedy, that it wasn't a crime, accused investigators of rushing to judgment. But the judge referenced the medical examiner's findings.
Her lungs were dry.
Can you put your children up for adoption with no consequences? Yes. Yes. It's actually more encouraged, especially depending, because there are families that fall on hard times. There are like adults whose families fall apart. The parents lose their job. They cannot financially support a child anymore. They can either put them up for adoption or put them in care somewhere. There are always avenues to go. There's not like, of course, at that point in time, the child's already like 3. She was 4, but still young enough to get adopted by a loving family. It's once they hit like 10, 13, 15, they're just going to end up in the welfare system.
Indicating she did not drown. So for purposes of this probable cause hearing, there is probable cause. In addition, she waited 10 minutes before she purportedly called 911 for help.
And Gupta was denied bond. And now this is where we return to the new evidence, okay? And to help me break it down, I want to bring on special guest, friend of the show, Tom Smith, retired NYPD detective and co-host of the Gold Shield Show. Good to see you, sir. Thanks for taking the time to come in. When you arrive at a scene like this, I don't know if you've ever arrived at a scene like this, I hope you never did, but how do you differentiate between an accident, right? An accident.
You can suggest vids in Discord.
Homicide.
Well, when you first show up, you're not. Your very first thing is to aid the victim. Or, whatever needs to be done when it comes to the victim is what you're doing first. Getting that taken care of, getting an ambulance there, getting whatever aid is necessary to take care of that victim. And then later on, when detectives arrive and statements start going, what did you first observe? What did you first see? That's when it starts to break down of how it happened or what the circumstances were surrounding it.
Can you tell from a scene, not even speaking of the name, from a scene itself, the physical evidence of the scene, can you tell whether something was tampered with? Can you tell whether something was staged? Can you tell if something doesn't add up? And what are those clues?
Yeah, and it depends on where it is. Like a room, a bedroom. Yeah, you can take a snapshot look at it and see, what's moved, what's broken, what's not. An outdoor scene like this with just a swimming pool, very difficult.
Autopsy findings, are they the end-all be-all? Have you ever disagreed with an autopsy finding based on your own investigation?
No, absolutely not. They're the experts. That's their world. That's what they're educated and paid to do. And I haven't ran into one that I disagreed with. There's ones that you get that you question more like, hey, tell me more about it. Tell me how this didn't happen or how your findings conclude this. Those conversations take place. But just to say, no, that wasn't what I thought, no.
When I tell you there is an absence of water in this little girl's lungs, what does it tell you?
Absolutely did not drown. I mean, no doubt about it. That was actually the first thing I looked up when it came to this case, was what were the autopsy findings when it came to her lungs, her trachea, anything like that. And the absence of any water in there takes away the whole drowning part.
Regarding the surveillance footage, which we're going to get into, generally speaking, how important is surveillance footage in a case like this, particularly footage that leads up to some sort of event? How much does it tell you about what a person's thinking or doing, or their actions, their mannerisms? What are you looking for?
Oh, a lot. You know, the interactions between the two, conversations between the two, you know, what's said by each party. Those are dramatic when it comes to leading the course of an investigation of a direction you want to go in, because of just, it's family. You know, things are just going on at a normal, natural pace, and that's what you want to see. And you want to try to get the little snippets of maybe something bad being said, or one small little action that was done that leads to, you know, a terrible event like this.
And a lot of people, I'm not saying in this case, but a lot of people, they don't even realize that they're on tape, right? They don't even realize they're on surveillance tape.
Right, and it's their own house.
Yeah, well, but that's a good point. I mean, we see that a lot. But like, you know, even the Mark Sanchez case, totally different situation. But you know, that footage, there's probably multiple footage, both of the attack, the alleged attack, and him walking around. There's cameras everywhere, and it captures everything. So I would imagine, in a way, solving a crime, trying to figure out what happened, is easier today than it was 20 years ago.
Oh, dramatically easier.
Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't say easier, but it's the technology today helps investigations go on. The presence of video cameras, like you said, is everywhere. If it's not in a store or it's not in the corner of a building, it's on a traffic light. It's on someone's ring, you know, on their front door. It is endless what the coverage is of surveillance technology today.
So at first she's charged with a first-degree murder charge, and this is interesting but then a month later, prosecutors downgraded that to aggravated manslaughter. But by August 13th, prosecutors reinstated a murder charge. This time it was second degree. So it seems they're still saying the evidence supports that this girl was smothered, that the scene was staged. Have you seen a back and forth like that on charges?
Well, you know what? Here's what I want to say about that. And me and you have had this discussion. You have asked me on other shows, what takes so long when there's an investigation going on to come up with what charge you're going to charge someone? This is exactly why. Because if you jump too quick, this is what happens. And now the prosecution looks horrible. Detectives are kind of in the middle of this because they probably know it should be charged, but then it's up to the DAs to do it. And it affects the jurors out there. You know, jurors during a trial aren't supposed to watch the news or read the paper or whatever, but beforehand in your own life, you're going to. So now you see, is the prosecution really on the right track? Is it right? Is it wrong? What are they doing? So that's why I always said to you that the more time you take with going through it methodically and making sure you do this once and one time and you're right about it, this is exactly why.
How much do investigators influence prosecutorial decisions on charges?
It depends on the relationship you have. You know, most detectives and DAs have great relationships because you're dealing with the same ones all the time. It's kind of one team. And that's why that relationship is so important, because each of you need to rely on your opinions and your experiences of what you saw, what your gut feeling is, but then you can't go gut into the law. Then the law has to take over. You know, so it's a back and forth, but the relationship there is very, very important to each other's experience.
So you're saying law and order is real, it's accurate?
Yeah. I mean, we've had, and you know what? It's not always on the right page. You know, you've had disagreements. Why are you doing this? Why aren't you doing this?
I'm at the show.
Yeah.
It's accurate.
That happens because, you know, you're after two different things.
Yeah.
You know, in the law enforcement world, the detective job is to lock up the bad guy.
Yeah.
You know, in the law, they have to prosecute and put him in jail. Those are two different worlds.
Yeah.
But they kind of come to an agreement in the middle, but inevitably at the end, the law is always going to take over.
Okay, let's talk about the surveillance footage, because it's odd. This is odd. There were cameras at this rental property, and it captures Dr. Neha Gupta on June 25th and the 26th. So this is the final days before this little girl's death. The footage we obtained shows this 4-year-old in what is just little ordinary moments with her mother at this short-term rental property before authorities say she was found dead in the backyard pool. In the footage, you can see who police say is Gupta pulling up to that El Portal home in her car on June 25th, then stepping out with her daughter. You can even hear Aria's voice here. You see her again in this video where Gupta appears to walk to her car, grab the bags. Later, she's seen bringing in a suitcase, and you can still hear the little girl's voice in the background. That evening, a food delivery arrives. The next afternoon, there was a diaper change. Later, Gupta is seen carrying the tired-out girl inside. I will tell you, this would be the last time that Aria was seen alive, because the next morning, this is now June 27th, flashing lights, first responders arrive, and finally, the heartbreaking scene, her body being taken out on a stretcher. Tom, I think that this is important footage. What does it tell you, though? Because it seems just so ordinary, and if you think about what she's accused of doing, is there anything in there that is a clue?
No, that's what I said before. You know, video footage is great. You know, you're always looking for video footage on the detective side to find something wrong, but that's not always the case. You know, like I said, it's normal interaction that you see on these videos between a mother and her daughter, and hearing her voice, "Oh, mommy, I'll help you with the bag." You know, just there's no animosity there, there's no violent tendencies there, there's no yelling, there's none of that. So sometimes the video of what you're kind of looking for, because you know the end result, you know the event that took place, and when you start looking at videos and none of that is on there, then you have to go to the next step.
But it does provide a timeline.
Yes, very important. You are absolutely right about that. Timelines when it comes to these are very important because you could get statements from the people that are involved, and those get murky and cloudy and kind of on top of each other. When you have a definitive timeline because of video, that certainly helps out.
But this could help defense attorneys, right? In the sense, like, if this is a woman who's accused of murdering her daughter, do you see anything on this tape that would indicate this is something that was about to happen, or if she has the ability to do this? I mean, in the tape, you could argue she's caring for her daughter.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And listen, defense attorneys have a job to do, and that's to defend their client. And a video like this is certainly going to help out.
Now, through her attorney, Gupta maintains her innocence, insisting that her daughter's death was accidental, that it was a tragedy, it wasn't a crime, accusing investigators of rushing the judgment. But Tom, I want to talk about this now. I want to talk about one detail from a past interview of Gupta's. I don't know if you saw this. It is raising some eyebrows, okay? We found this video that is circulating on YouTube from November 18th, 2022, where a medical virtual discussion on research that Gupta had published, she was asked to share a fun fact about herself. Here's what she said.
I love adventure sports, so I guess not a lot of people know about that. So I love scuba diving, snorkeling.
Scuba diving and snorkeling. Remember earlier we told everybody that, according to police, she said she couldn't swim. That's why she couldn't save her daughter. I mean, per the warrant, the subject stated she attempted to remove the victim from the pool. However, she was unsuccessful due to the fact that she's unable to swim. What do you make of that?
That's a problem.
Yeah.
You know, your words come back to haunt you sometimes when you're not thinking, obviously, in the future of what might take place, and you're just giving an interview and being truthful in that interview about things you like, things you...
Yep. Yeah, that's the thing. That's the same thing with that always being on the spot, always on camera. That, I think, is the only smoking gun, because you see the footage from outside, like the Ring camera. I'm like, I was thinking that was going to be like, maybe she's, if anything, she seems tired, like annoyed that she's having to take care of the little girl. Like, where's the dad? Yeah, where? I have no clue. I have no clue about the relationship status. I have no clue about what exactly happened. I have no clue if there even was a father. Like, I don't know. I honestly don't know. But the thing is, like, there are other avenues. Like, if the whole thing was an accident, the only accident that would have made sense is because, like she said, she was sleeping in the same bed with the child. The only accident that could have made sense is that she rolled on top of her and smothered her in her sleep, not knowing. And then she just, but then at that moment, you call it in immediately. You let them know, and you're not gonna, not much is gonna happen. Sure, you'll still get charged probably with something because you were, well, you're responsible for a child's life at that point in time. But yeah, I mean, of course something's gonna happen. Of course something's gonna happen. You can't just let someone off for doing something like that. Even if it's an accident, you can't just let someone off. You can't just, like, if I'm holding a knife, I turn around and I slit someone's throat, I wasn't aware that they were there, I'm still gonna get charged with something. But given that it's an accident is something different. But the fact that there is no water, and when you're drowning, you're literally swallowing water. That is what gets you. You what is it? It's like what was the saying? A man dying in the desert. But it kind of the same kind of thing. Kind of the same thing happens, except on the reverse. Yeah, I saw something over there. I need to squash.
You can do, you know, events that you go to, that you snorkel and swim and everything, and then later on, it's going to come back to haunt you, and this is a problem for her.
It's like riding a bike, right? Like, once you know how to swim, it's not like you lose that ability unless there's some sort of tragic, traumatic physical injury where you no longer can swim. Is this common, where you see people making statements, maybe particularly online, particularly on social media, that come back to bite them, and it contradicts something they say later on?
Sure. You know, we bust on social media a lot in certain things, and sometimes it works, and sometimes it helps out investigations when things like this occur. And let's get something straight. She's not swimming the English Channel. She's not swimming in the Atlantic Ocean. She's jumping into a pool, grabbing a body that's probably 40 pounds or so, and getting it out of the water. And it's your daughter. All right. You would move heaven and earth to take care of one of your kids and try to do everything you could for one of your kids. And the excuse of I can't swim when you're not really swimming is her defense in this is going to cause a problem.
Now, something else that I want to bring up with you are custody issues. Okay, custody issues that were uncovered. So investigators also learned that Gupta was in the middle of a bitter custody battle with her ex-husband, Dr. Sarab Talathi, who says that he had no idea that she had taken their daughter out of Oklahoma. Court records show he'd been granted temporary sole custody after claiming Gupta interfered with Aria's medical care and exhibited erratic behavior. He even petitioned the court for a psychological evaluation, citing, quote, unreasonable mood swings and concern for the child's safety. When I say that, how seriously do investigators look at that? How do they weigh prior concerns about erratic behavior or interference with medical care? Is it related to this case?
Yes, it's a major part of the investigation. And I've said it all the time, interviews are so vital when it comes to family members, past history, things you've done in the past. And when it comes to custody battles, you nailed it. There are so many things that come out when interviews are done, when there's specific custody battles going on about the way people are. You know, behind closed doors or behind cameras, people are different. So that's where you really get into the integral parts of a relationship when you're dealing and talking to an ex-spouse or a spouse about their actions, statements they've made, anything like that is going to be a big part in this.
The only thing that makes sense is, like, probably she was wanting to the girl got upset and wanted to be with father. Wanted to be with father. And when it comes to like children, okay, this is going to show how screwed up the West is. If that little girl wanted to transition to be a boy, she has full autonomy to do that. However, if that little girl wants to have sole custody of her father, the courts will not allow her to choose that because it's in the best interest of both parents to allow the child to be able to spend time with both parents unless something happens. Like that's literally how it works. The system's completely ruined here. Completely ruined. How is it a child incredibly young can choose for themselves their own sexuality, but they can't choose for themselves which parent they prefer more? It's because it's broken here. The system's completely broken. Oh my gosh. It's just crazy. You just read that her murder charges have been dropped. Oh, great.
Well, Dr. Neha Gupta remains behind bars in Miami-Dade County. She's awaiting trial on that second-degree murder charge, and court records show that she's due back in court on November 13th for a status hearing. We are obviously going to keep following every development as it unfolds because this is a case that is constantly changing and evolving, and we're still trying to understand exactly what happened to this little girl. Tom Smith, good to see you. Thanks so much for taking the time.
Always a pleasure, Jess.
And that is all we have for you right now here on
Oh my
Sidebar.
gosh.
Everybody,
I'm
thank
gonna
you
look
so
that
much for
up.
joining
I'm
us.
gonna look that up. I have to find out. The last thing I looked up was Define Chud. Oh crap. Does this even work? I don't think it works. Let me see. Okay, yes, it's working great. Neha Gupta. All right. Neha Gupta. Mother arrested and charged with the death of a 4-year-old. So she was charged. It seems like she was charged. Let me look. 4-year-old daughter, Miami, Dade, whatever. According to the investigator. Topic, homicide, case number, date, time of occurrence, address, subject, 36 years old, first-degree murder, subject charges, deceased info. Okay. So it looks like she was charged. The mother, pediatrician, Dr. Neha Gupta, and her daughter traveled to from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, and are staying in a rental during that. No, Dr. Neha Gupta is pending extraction to Miami-Dade County, where she will be charged for first degree. There is no arrest affidavit nor booking photo available at this time. But yeah, she is charged. She absolutely is. She's not getting away with it. There's no chance. Yeah, I think it would be primarily the divorce and the claims that the father has put forward, because I'm pretty sure what would have happened and held a lot of sway in the courts is a lot of the prior testimonies of the father. If he was already saying how dangerous she was and the fact that the child wasn't supposed to be removed from Oklahoma, because when it comes to certain kinds of families splitting up, the kids need to be close by both parents, depending on what the courts say. So already a lot of things are lining up to be red flags. And if someone is dealing with mental instability, they could seem perfectly fine, and then they just flip on a dime and become a completely different person. Maybe she just had a moment where she completely snapped and just took her child's life. Completely took her child's life. 8th August, CBS News video says charges were dropped. Well, it doesn't. I just looked up the court filing. Yeah, the court filing as of July 2nd, 2025. Yeah, it doesn't seem charges reduced for doctor. Maybe, honestly, if anything, it's probably the insanity plea. Let me see what this one says. Daughter's drowning in El Portal. Neha Gupta accused of killing a 14-year-old pool. She was initially charged with first-degree murder. Our position from day one has been potentially child Child tragically got out of the locked door and fell into the pool accidentally, the defense attorney says. Yada, 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 yada. Okay. Gupta remains behind bars in Miami without bond, but her attorney is seeking to have her released while she awaits trial and hearing. Well, that seems to be the most recent. Yeah, August 7th. So she's still waiting trial. This stuff will take years. It'll take years. It'll probably be a few years before everything comes to light 100%. If we're honest. I'll give it a year or two before we actually know the full sentencing. And more evidence will come to light. More evidence will come to light, and they'll rope in like the divorce proceedings. They'll rope in all of that as well, because it's gonna hold sway in court. It's gonna hold sway in court.
You guys got a video? So bad.
And don't forget to like and subscribe.
Wait on that.